Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritav Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari Om. The student said that samsara has no beginning. Samsara is beginningless and therefore it is endless. Something that does not have a beginning will not have an end is the usual logic statement that Tarkikas give. So samsara being beginningless would have no end as well. If that is the case, samsara, which means bondage does not have an end. What are you talking about, moksha? Moksha is freedom. Freedom from bondage. When that is not there, moksha is impossible. So that is the logical conclusion of a Tarkika, of a logician. The student raises this issue, this question. So the teacher replied, no, that is not the case. This samsara that you're talking about is something unique. It is something unique. Why? It is anadi, no doubt. It is beginningless. Because it is born out of ignorance. That avidya is anadi. So, something that is born out of that will also be anadi. Yes, samsara is anadi. That samsara, that jiva bhava, that sense of limitation, bondage, etc., all of them, yes, they are all anadi. No question about it. You're right about that. But since it is due to ignorance, avidya, when you get rid of that ignorance through knowledge, so in the dawn of knowledge, ignorance goes away and all its effects, including samsara bondage, will go away. So even though samsara is beginningless, it is not endless. We can put an end to it. Samsara is nothing but jiva bhava, belongs to Vijnanamaya kosha, which is the ahankar. Ahankar. Karta, bhokta, pramata. I am the lower I. I am the limited I. All that is there. That is jiva bhava, born out of ignorance. In Vijnanamaya kosha, it is ahankara. It's a thought. And what happens is, what belongs to that Vijnanamaya kosha, in ignorance, you have transferred into Atma, the higher I, which you truly are. That is an erroneous notion, misconception. Superimposition due to ignorance. That's what has happened. The Jiva Bhava is Anadi, but once you get that knowledge and you own up, you claim your true nature, your real nature as original consciousness, you will not be limited by the body, mind, intellect. You will not be limited by the anatma. You would not have a sense of limitation. You will be liberated. And that's what you are. That's what you are. The plurality, the multiplicity that you see, all are mithya. It is the jiva that travels from body to body. But as Atma, there is no samsara, there is no transmigration. Of course, there is nothing wrong in using your intellect to claim that nature, to own up to that nature. But when you do that, the intellect is not included. You drop it. Once you gain that knowledge, you don't need that intellect with which you gain that knowledge anymore. So that is what was said. Yad buddhi upadhi sambandhat parikalpitam atmani. In verse 200, we saw jivatvam is only apparently, seemingly transferred because of this association with the buddhi upadhi. Associating yourself with that intellect, the ahankara, the lower I, the vijnanamaya kosha, you have this problem. Actually, there is no real entity called jiva. Just like when a person mistakes the rope to be a snake, snake is not there. It is an illusion. It's not a separate substance. It is mithya. It is superimposed. You have thrown that snake on that rope due to ignorance. Similarly, Vedanta says, jiva seems to be an entity like the snake, finite. But there is no entity, real entity called jiva. The apparent jivatvam is only seemingly seen on the Atma. Therefore, he said, jivatvam na tatonyastu swarupena vilakshanaha sambandhastu atmano buddhya mithya jnana purasaraha. There is no independent jivatvam. separate from Atma. This comes about because of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Apparently, its properties, its finite nature, it transferred to Atma. Because of this transaction, there is this apparent sambandha relationship is there. It is just like the relationship, the sambandha between a red flower and a crystal that is placed next to it. The redness of the flower is transferred to the colorless crystal. Then the crystal appears red. So this is called Upadi Upahita Sambandha. Not real. It's not real, unreal. Mithya, apparent. It's an erroneous relationship. It's not that the color has come to the crystal. Therefore, we call it Adhyatmikam. Adhyasa, superimposition only. This is conveyed by Shankaracharya here. Mithya jnana purassarah, erroneous knowledge. That's why wisdom is stressed. Wisdom. Problem is one of error. Error is an intellectual problem. Therefore, the solution also has to be intellectual. So we've seen up to this so far, and we continue today with verse 202. Let us read. Vinivrittir bhavet tasya samyajnanena nanyata brahmatmaikatva vijnanam samyajnanam shrutermatam. Vinivrittir bhavet tasya samyajnanena nanyata brahmatmaikatva vijnanam samyajnanam shrutermatam. In the previous verse, Bhashyakara had said, samsara is false. It is seen erroneously, mistakenly you are seeing it. And anything false will go away by the right knowledge. Anything that is unreal is born out of ignorance. And ignorance goes away by knowledge. Hence, Shankaracharya says here, tasya vinivrittihi samyak jnanena bhavet. Tasya, it's referring to jiva bhavasya, the jiva bhava that you have, adyasya jiva bhavasya, that jiva bhava, that notion that I am a limited individual, that notion, adyasya, is because of superimposition. That superimposed sense of limitation, adyasya samsarasya mithya jnana janya parichedasya. Paricheda, limitation, all the limitation, janya, caused by what? Mithya jnana. Unreal, false knowledge, ignorance. Samsarasya adyasya, that superimposed feeling of samsara, bondage, etc. All that is vinivrittihi, removed. The removal of that, its destruction is how? Through samyajnanena. by the right knowledge. When you get the correct knowledge, it's instantaneous, just goes away. You get that knowledge, problem's gone. So the knowledge, if gained properly, you have to get the right knowledge. Okay. Samsara goes away instantaneously. Na anyata. Not by any other means. There's no other path. To get rid of samsara, knowledge alone is the only way. So he says, knowledge alone will remove samsara, na anyata. Nothing else will do the job. So what do you mean by samyak jnana? What is the right knowledge? The correct wisdom. What is it? I accept. It is due to ignorance. Knowledge will remove that ignorance. But what knowledge? What do you mean by the right knowledge? And Shankaracharya defines it here. Brahmatma ekatva vijnanam. The Jivatma Paramatma Aikya Vijnanam. The knowledge of oneness of the consciousness in Vyashti, the individual, and the consciousness in Samashti, the total, they are one and the same. That knowledge you should get. So many individuals are there, jivas are there. There is consciousness associated with each one of them. That consciousness is one only, and then that is the same consciousness which is in the collection of them, the samashti of all the jivas. Totality of all of them is called Ishvara. So it is the same consciousness. All jivas put together is seen as one samashti or Virat. And Virat has consciousness associated with that. When I say it is your body, that man's body, this man's body, that body, body of an animal, body of an insect, all that. So many bodies are there. And consciousness is associated with each one of them. When you put it together also, that consciousness does not go away, it is there. But that consciousness is associated with the totality. That's called Paramatma. The individual consciousness, we call it Jivatma. Mistakenly, we think that each Jivatma is separate. There are many of them. They all have distinct characteristics, qualities, etc. But all those diversity, distinctness, separation, division, etc., you have, in ignorance, superimposed all that. The very essence of that is the same one and only consciousness. And that is also behind the total body. Samashti also, it's the same. So the Brahma, Atma, Ekatvam, the oneness between the individual self and the total self, that is the right knowledge. The Samyak Jnanam, right knowledge we are talking about is that oneness, that identity. That's what it is. The Vijnanam, the wisdom, the knowledge that there is only one limited consciousness, and that consciousness I am. This knowledge alone is called the right knowledge. Unless and until this knowledge comes to you, there will not be any freedom for you. You will struggle in samsara only. You have to get that right knowledge. Who says that? Even Shankaracharya says, hey, I'm not saying that, all right? Shrutehe matam. It's the teaching of the scriptures. I'm just telling you what is in the Shruti. I'm not making it up. This is not my personal opinion. This is what is said there. So this is the matam of Astika. The difference between Astika and Nastika is that the Astika has understood that intellect cannot arrive at the reality. Intellect can achieve a lot, and it has achieved a lot. It can even reason out and everything and see this oneness, but establishing in the getting established, getting abidance in the truth, that is beyond the intellect. The intellect cannot study what is in this creation, go cause hunting. It reaches a certain state where it has to go beyond. The intellect that we're talking about, all these, material sciences, physical sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, and all that. We have made tremendous strides in all that, but that cannot independently arrive at this reality that we're talking about. In Brahma Sutra, there is an exclusive sutra that talks about this. Na tarka aparishthana. Logic and science can never arrive at the finality of truth together. Therefore, we should have an additional factor to assist our study. And that additional factor is something beyond intellect. And that pramanam is Shabda pramanam only. Shabda pramanam. It is not pratyaksha. It's not subject to pratyaksha or anumana. It is Shabda pramanam. Of course, we don't say just Shastra alone. Yes, Shastra alone can do it. But fortunately or unfortunately, you have this intellect also. That intellect only comes in the way. The intellect has to be satisfied. We get so many doubts, questions, and all that. Unless and until the intellect is satisfied, it's very difficult to get that abidance. Therefore, it has to be assisted by logic also. Logic is the one that satisfies the intellect. So we use logic also, not that we don't throw away logic. If logic says something, the truth has to be just the opposite. We don't take that stand. Okay? So we just evaluate whether it is valid logic or fallacious logic. So many flawed logic people throw at you also. So we definitely use tarka logic. Use the intellect. It's a process. It's not the end game. That's what we need to realize. We do not say Shastra alone, but we say Shastra plus logic. Shastra assisted by logic. That will get the job done. Yeah. And even in logic, we can talk about two types. Kevala tarka. Kevala tarka means tarka alone, logic alone. Logic unassisted by Shastra. A lot of people are there. No. Just because it is said in the Vedas, why should I? Let me reason it out. I'm an intellectual. I have this intellect. I will use logic. That won't get you. So that is one type of logic. And the other is Shastra assisted logic. Shastra anusari. Following Shastra, you use logic. Nothing wrong. And logic assisted Shastra. Logic that is supported by Shastra. That is called Samyak Jnana. Samyak Tarka. That's the right way to approach. Accept the limitations of logic, use its power. And whatever is said in the Shastra, get a better understanding through that logic. Such a person is called an Astika Purusha, one who has faith in the Shastra. So for that Astika, Samyak Jnanam Shrutehe Matam. This is considered to be Samyak Jnanam, the right knowledge. Given this example many times, when I want to look at my face, nobody has seen their own face directly. My eyes won't help you. My eyes won't help me to see my face. I can never see my face directly. But if I'm an astika, if I have some faith, in this case, to see my face, I have faith in the mirror. I take a mirror, stick it in front of my face, and I have faith that the mirror is reflecting what my face is. So I don't feel bad about it. When I want to look at my eyes cannot look at itself. Use a mirror. Shastra is like the mirror. To look at our own nature, to gain an understanding of our true nature. Just like I need a mirror to look at my face, I need the Shastra to gain knowledge about my true nature. The eye alone, without mirror, cannot get the job done. Eyes can see everything. Yes? Who says no? If you have a good pair of eyes, you can look at anything and know. But however good your eyes may be, you cannot look at your own eyes or your own face using that eye alone. Okay. I use a mirror and see my face. Can I use just a mirror? I won't use anything else. That also would not get the job done. You need an pair of eyes. A blind man can take a mirror and put it in front of him. Will he see the face? No. So both are required. Eyes are required, mirror is required to see the face. In the same way, Shastra alone is just like having a mirror alone without the pair of eyes. Logic alone, kevala logic. It's like, having the eyes but no mirror. So both of them are required. The one who uses Shastra without using his rational intellect, Shastra cannot help him because he has to understand what is said in the Shastra with the intellect. You need to have that. And our Shastras, they are so elaborate. So much of it, And then, so sometimes, especially the Upanishad, which is the core of all that, not easy to understand. Mere cursory reading, you will get confused only. So Shastra, Guru, intellect, all that is required. So the one who uses logic and the Shastras, he is the Astika, and for Astikas, they will get the right knowledge. That knowledge, right knowledge is Brahma Atma Ekatva Vijnanam, the knowledge of the identity between the individual self and the total self. Continuing, verse 203. Tadatmanatmano samyag sadatmanatmano samyak vivekenaiva siddhyati vivekenaiva siddhyati tato vivekah kartavyah tato vivekah kartavyah pradyagatma sadatmano प्रद्यगात्मा सदात्मनोः तदात्मानात्मनो सम्यग् विवेकेनैव सिद्ध्यति ततो विवेकः कर्तव्यः प्रद्यगात्मा सदात्मनोः. So what is the means to gain that Samyak Jnanam? That Samyak Jnanam, the right knowledge, which was defined in the earlier verse as Brahmatma Ekatva Vijnanam. Brahma is Brahman, the infinite reality. And Atma means the self, myself, I. And that oneness, that is Samyak Vijnanam. So Brahma Atma Ekatva Vijnanam, the knowledge that I am that infinite reality. How do I get it? Even as we hear it. Hey, you individual self, you are that Brahman. When you hear it, cannot accept it just like that. Because right now, according to me, I am the finite body. Or I identify with the mind, I am the mind. As long as I hold on to the idea that I'm the finite body, I'm the finite mind, or the mind-body complex, the assemblage, I cannot claim I am infinite. I know my limitation. I know the limitations of the body, the limitations of the mind, etc. So when I've identified with that, how can I hold myself to be infinite? Therefore, what has to change is the very idea of I. Unless there is a conceptual change about myself with regard to myself, unless there is that cognitive change, I can never claim that I am Brahman. Therefore, I should begin with the questioning of who I am. If I am the body, I cannot claim myself. It is impossible to claim myself to be infinite. If I am the mind, again it is impossible to say that I am infinite. Therefore, the inquiry should lead the knowledge that I am something different from the body, different from the mind, different from the body-mind assemblage. I should know that I am that consciousness principle, which is infinite reality. Knowing that I am the consciousness principle also is not enough, because I may take consciousness as a property of the body. I am consciousness, but that consciousness, the body has consciousness. We may have strange ideas like that also. If consciousness is the property of the body, the consciousness can never be infinite, because the locus that consciousness is in the body itself is finite. So when the body is finite, how can its property be infinite? So consciousness is not part of the body, it's not a property of the body. You should know that it is an independent entity. All that you should know. So that is complete knowledge, samyak knowledge. that consciousness, it pervades my body and pervades every body. It illumines the body, it illumines the external world. Consciousness, not only in my body, in the other body, in between the bodies also. It is there, it is all pervading. All that put together is a complete knowledge, samyak knowledge, correct knowledge. And when this body, which is finite, which is subject to birth and death, when this body dies, consciousness does not die. It continues. But you cannot see its expression, but the body is not there. So all that, you should never forget, all that put together is a complete knowledge. Samyak jnanam. This definition of consciousness, you should always have very clearly in your mind. Should not forget it at any time. So having that definition of consciousness, I should own up that I am that consciousness. Incidentally, I am functioning through this body. I'm not limited by that. I function through the body, all right, which is limited matter, but I'm not conditioned by matter. Have a very clear understanding of all that. This knowledge, very important. I am the consciousness who is neither controlled, conditioned, limited by matter. Therefore, just as space, in space there are a lot of things floating, but space itself is not affected by whatever that is floating in space. Similarly, consciousness is like space. Everything happens in consciousness. Everything. But itself, not affected. Asangoham, 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 punah punah. I'm not affected. I'm untouched, uncontaminated, untainted, unaffected by anything and everything that happens around. This knowledge is required. If you have that knowledge, you're free. You're free. If you do not gain that knowledge, then you are bound. Samsara, that's what we are talking about as samsara, nothing else. So to be free, you must gain that knowledge. All right? I am consciousness. I am different from the body. That is called Atma Anatma Viveka. We are addressing those people who are willing to include Shastra in addition to Buddhi or logic. And that is called Shastra Vichar. It is just not experimental scientific study. The material scientists, they do a lot of experiments. They want empirical evidence. That's not enough. It has to be a total knowledge. That is called Samyak Viveka. Therefore, Samyak Vivekena, with the help of Shastra, you should do the discrimination, do the vichara, all that should be done. Atma Anatmanoho. You must do that differentiation, discrimination, Viveka between Atma, the self, and Anatma, the not self. Should separate them. You should separate consciousness and matter, all that you have to do. And to do that, you have to go step by step. Samsara will go away by the right knowledge. When you discriminate between Atma and Anatma, the self and the not self, that Samyak Jnanam Siddhyati, you will get the right knowledge. Therefore, the means is that vichara, that viveka. So, what should you do? Better start from Atma, Anatma, Viveka, the Panchakosha Viveka. He says, Tataha, since discrimination alone produces the right knowledge, therefore, Vivekaha Kartavyaha, the inquiry, the analysis, the discrimination should be done. Pratyagatma Asadatmanoho, between the inner self, the real self, and Asadatmanoho, the false self, the unreal self, the unreal I, the ahankara, which you have taken yourself to be, the Vijnanamaya kosha. The differentiation has to happen. The pure consciousness is the real I. The unreal is anatma. This vichara, discrimination, must be done. And of course, you have to use your buddhi, the intellect. It's an instrument, you have to use that instrument. There is one set of people who say buddhi is not required. We have to transcend buddhi. You just leave buddhi alone. Why purify the buddhi and all that? No. The buddhi is very much required. Because that ignorance, where is that ignorance? That ignorance is the problem of buddhi only. If you have the right intellect, you will not have the ignorance. Problem. The error is a problem of buddhi, defect. You have to correct that. You have to use that only. Knowledge is gained by buddhi. And the guru teaches the shishyas for the understanding of the teaching, but buddhi is very much required. Buddhi is never suppressed. Buddhi is kept alive. It's kept alive. You got to use it. You use it. So some people emphasize Shastra, leaving out the buddhi, and there are some people who emphasize buddhi but give up Shastra. Both approaches are wrong. Why should I accept Shastra? Their attitude to Shastra is very different. So we should very clear understand what Shastra we are talking about. This is spiritual science, different from the other sciences. We do not take Shastra as an invention of human intellect. All other sciences have developed from the human intellect. They are good only. We have made tremendous advances. And there is no gainsaying any of that. Cannot deny. And these days, everywhere you talk about is that artificial intelligence. Using that intelligence only, you are creating artificial intelligence. Tremendous progress we have made, no question about it. But that intellect has not invented the spiritual science, the Shastras. This is a revelation. This came along with the creation. So all that you have to keep in mind. If you understand all that, you will have reverence for Shastra. You will see what is its place. You will not disregard Shastra. Of course, we have respect for all the advancement, for the human intellect, of course. We don't dismiss it. It is done. But suffice it to say that Shastra has a different status. It's paurushe, beyond human composition. Human intellect did not come up with that. If it is a product of human brain, then we can keep on producing new things. So new Shastras will come. And they're all applicable in the material science. We are making advances, no question. But the Shastra that we are talking about, the spiritual science that we're talking about, it's not a product of human intellect. Apaurusheya only, beyond human intellect. Shastra is important. Buddhi also is important. Buddhi plus Shastra, that's the right way to go. That will give you samyak jnana. That will give you the right knowledge. Shravanam, Mananam are both necessary. Shravanam is Shastra oriented. In the process of Shravanam, what is happening? The Guru is explaining what is said in the Shastra. So the focus is from Shastra. After that, after you get a good idea what the Shastra is telling you, some doubts, questions may be there. That is where you employ your intellect, logic, to remove any of your doubts, questions, any consistencies that you may be thinking it is not agreeing with what is said in the Shastras. You clear all that. That is intellect focused, buddhi oriented, manana. And both of them you must do. Both of them you must do. That is why we emphasize these three, Shravanam, Mananam, and then of course, Nididhyasanam, the third step. But here we are focusing on Shravana Manana. So in Brahma Sutra also, Bhashyakara has discussed this very elaborately. In the second sutra, Janmadyasya yataha. Janmadyasya yataha. Very clearly he discusses the role of Shastra. And the role of Buddhi also, yes. So the Tarkikas are philosophers who hold on to only Tarka. They don't take Shastra into account. And there are other philosophers called Purva Mimamsakas who hold on to Shastra, but they lose sight of Buddhi. So Shankaracharya says both are extremes. The intelligent thing to do is to take the help of Shastra, take the help of Buddhi, and then you can get the right knowledge. Then he says, Jalam pankavadatyantam, Jalam pankavadatyantam, Pankapaye jalam sputam, Pankapaye jalam sputam, Yata bhati tatatmapi, Yatad bhati tatatmapi, Dosha bhave sputha prabha, Dosha bhave sputha prabha, Jalam pankavadatyantam, Pankapaye jalam sputam, Yata bhati tatatmapi, Dosha bhave sputha prabha. Here he gives another example to show how knowledge will give clarity with regard to oneself. He says, suppose there is a reservoir of water, let us say a pond or a lake, any reservoir of water, and there is green mass covering the water. As long as that mass is covering, you cannot see the water very clearly. But when you remove the mass, the water can be clearly seen. Then you have the nice reflecting pool. All right. But if some problem is there, and then there is a lot of algae and moss covering it, you cannot see the water. He has given this example before. When the mass is removed, the water is clearly seen. You are thirsty and you do not see water anywhere, and you come across this pond, and it's covered by moss. But if you go down and then remove that moss, you will see the pure water. And you can drink the water. And you can quench your thirst. Similarly, here the water is the Atma Swarupam, which will remove your suffering. The thirst for Purnatvam, completeness is there, and that can be fulfilled. I feel I am lacking so many things in life, therefore there is a Purnatvam, incompleteness, lack of fulfillment in life. I am thirsty for that Purnatvam everywhere, without knowing that the thirst can be quenched from Atma, which is ever Purna. I do not drink the water now because the water is covered by moss. So all those misconceptions regarding myself, erroneous notions about myself, every notion about myself is the moss right now. That I am a father, I am a mother, I am a husband, I am a wife, I am a son, daughter, all that. According to Vedanta, you are none of that. Chidananda Rupaha, Shivoham, Shivoham. I'm of the nature of pure consciousness. Therefore, fatherhood, misconception. Motherhood, misconception. All are confusions. In the worldly plane, in the transactional plane, those are okay. You play that role. But your knowledge about who you truly are, you have to remove that mask. You remove the mask by hand here, using Shastra and intellect. You have to do that. Then your thirst can be quenched. Then aham purnaha, aham shuddhaha, I am amaraha, I am full, I am pure, I am immortal. All that knowledge you'll get. Therefore, jalam pankavat, like the water in a pond, which is muddy. Yata, just as pankapaye jalam atyantam sputam bhati. When the mud is removed, the water becomes very clear. Tata, in the same way, dosha abhave, when the defects are removed, the ignorance is removed, atma api sputa prabha. Self also shines brilliantly. That's why in Brahma Sutra, Shankaracharya again says, Adhyasa Bhasya. Adhyasa, that superimposition is the mud, the dirt, the dosha, the defect. When that is removed, self becomes very, very clear. It shines very clearly. One realizes true self, his own nature. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.